Art by Amy Carlson, and we are doing finally August paint tutorial. And what we're going to be doing is painting just kind of little lakeshore, seashore deal. And what I have done is I have kind of outlined, I just looked up a pair of flip-flops on Google, and I've laid them in here on my canvas. I'm using 11 by 14 canvas, and then we're just going to draw in a lake picture. I'm calling it a lake picture as we live on a lake, and then I'll draw in a few little flowers over here, so we'll have half water, half beach. But I drew this in kind of dark because I'm going to paint over top of it, and I want to be able to see my lines. So 11 by 14 canvas is what we're going to start with. I always put push pins in the back of my canvases. It just makes it easier to be painting with. I've got something to grab a hold of, especially when I'm painting the sides. And then I've got a paper plate with all the colors that I'm going to use, and then I've kept them out as well, so if I need to add more. So for the lake water, I'm going to use what's called Lake Blue. This is all acrylic paints. I'm also using Payne's Gray. It's a deeper blue to use as well. And for the beach, we're going to be using a dark titanium white and a burnt umber for the shadowing of the beach. We are also going to be using for the flip-flops a light green and a light olive green. I'm going to do these two colors. I like those together. And then I'm also going to use a Prussian Blue for the rubber part of the top of the flip-flops. And then I have the titanium white that will thin out. I might use a little bit of it in the watering as well as the kind of the foam at the front of the lake picture. So, and then I'm going to put dots on my flip-flops. That's just the design I want to use. So I have a couple different tools. I'm not sure what size of dots I'm going to use yet. That's why I have a couple different ones. They have dots on the ends of them. You could use Q-tips. You could use toothpicks. If you've got rounded toothpicks that have a rounded end on the other side, you could use those, or even just the smaller portion and just use more paint with it. Just things that you might have around the house that you could utilize as well. I'm going to use a fan brush to paint in the water. I like these angular brushes. They're called daggers. They're very angled on the end. These help me get some nice straight lines. I have a rounded brush that I like. I've got an angled flat brush that I like to use. The numbers, this is a 3/8 angular. This one, boy, I can't even read the numbers on them anymore. This is a 3/8 as well. The fan brush is a number 8 that I'm using if you want specifics, but use what you have and make them work, because that's what art is all about. Okay, so we're just going to kind of divide this in half, going at an angular level here, maybe even bring that water level just up a little bit more. So to start with, I'm going to get my brush wet and kind of dip it down just a little bit, and I'm going to grab into that lake blue, and I'm going to go about right here. And it doesn't have to be a straight line, and I'm just going to paint in this blue color. I didn't put a whole ton of paint on my brush, you can see. That nice fan brush just gives a nice covering, but also you don't have to use a lot of paint, and I really like to use these. I'm going to use this brush also for the next color. Don't forget to go along your sides. I have not dipped into any more paint. In fact, for this color, I've got way too much paint on my plate. You can see my plate here. So, way too much. I'm lifting it up, making sure that I've got the blue color on the sides, everywhere that I painted blue. And I will need to dip it in for a little bit more just to get my sides coated here. I'm going to go ahead and go on over to the corner here. All right, so just work your way around. We're going live on YouTube. because I'm having a lot of trouble being able to get my videos loaded. So we're gonna try this live, so you're gonna get all the mistakes and everything else, and that's okay. So now I've got the blue in here. I'm gonna grab the Payne's gray was right next to it. I'm just gonna grab bits of it. Lake water can be kind of dark, and so I just want to give some of that dark coloring through my water. You know, lake water is not real blue, but for this painting, we're making it real blue because it'll just look pretty. Sometimes it doesn't have to match real life. And see, when you use a fan brush, it doesn't blend it all in specifically. So, and I'm not necessarily looking for that. I'm just looking to get some of this blue in here into the water and, you know, make it look like there's some depth to this water. So that's all we're doing, and I use the fan brush because it really gives a nice look to that water. And now I'm going to rinse that all out so that I'm not tapping on my paper towels over here with any white or blue left. It's still going to have some, and that's okay. Now I'm going to dip into my dark titanium white, and I'm going to do the same thing that I just did with the blue. I'm going to come across here. I still got quite a bit of water on here, and that's okay. I'm using way more of this than I did the blue. So now we're just coming across, getting in this titanium white. Looks nice and beachy, doesn't it? I feel like Bob Ross. We've got a happy little beach here. I'm going to grab just a little bit more water, and I don't really worry about what my water color looks like in my glass over here. So if I didn't say you needed water, you will. And I'm going to kind of get a little bit of the blue into here because I'm grabbing right up here. And don't worry, we've got something that we're going to do right at the very end, but we're going to paint our flip-flops first, okay? So all I'm doing here, again, is we're painting the sides. We're just getting a nice light coat of paint on here. Getting all our sides painted, running this through. We don't have to use a ton of paint. Let the paint do its work. Let your brushes do its work. And I just put my thumb in there. So let's get this side all painted. That's why I like using the canvases. We can paint those sides, and then we can frame them if we want to. They have these frames called illusion frames that look really neat that you can do if you want to. I'm going to get a little bit more water on here. So for the very end of it, I just really don't want to have to grab more paint, but I think I am. So I'm going to get just a little bit more of that because I've got some here in the middle that isn't completely covered. So I want a nice coat on here. Not super thick though. That's why we use the fan brush. But if you're seeing the canvas through your paint, then put extra on there, okay? The water helps for it to kind of thin out a little bit and glide over a little bit easier. That's why I keep dipping back into the water, is just to get that nice, easy flow with the paint. And then we're not using a ton of paint to cover. And I brush stroked everything on the diagonal here. So in case you were wondering, now sand is not always just this flat, you know, beigey tan, right? So we're gonna add some depth in here with that burnt umber. So now I'm gonna come back through and I'm gonna add just a little bit of burnt umber up here along the line of the shore where that water is coming in. And I'm also going to bring it right around these sandals. I want to really kind of create some shading around the flip-flops. We know that it's going to be a little bit darker where they are. So let's create that nice little shading in here and bring it around. Again, I'm not looking for pristine brush strokes. This is just creating some shading here. Add a little bit of water. I'm going to kind of mix these two and give some little brush strokes coming out from here. Little bit of brush strokes on the bottom. So there, that looks really good. Now, I'm gonna kind of lighten this guy up a little bit on this side because we decided together, right? This is kind of how we want this light to be working here. So we're just gonna kind of lighten this up. We get a little bit of darkness here just because we've got a shape there, right? Which is gonna give just a tad bit of darkness here, but not a ton. So let's kind of lighten this up a little bit. We're just kind of swirling that through. We're giving that a nice light look. Looks pretty good to me. And now I'm gonna come back to this side here. Get that coloring. I'm gonna come right up against that sandal. And I'm gonna give it some nice darkness right up against it. Working quickly and not precisely so that that acrylic paint does not dry. And I'm gonna bring it down to about right there. Now let's bring this guy. Let's really get this smudged in here. I'm picking up more of that lighter color. Really smudging this in. Working with it while it's still wet so we get a real blended look that is just nice. I think it works a whole lot better than if we were just to keep that all so very dark. And we get that real blended look. So it looks like it's shaded. When we step back from this, we'll see that nice shading here. All right. Again, I like to come back in so that we get, you know, really blend in these colors. And this will get more blended in when, there. I'm kind of really smooshing in the colors here to really get that blend. I don't want this stark edging here that I've created. So I'm just really working with some of this to create areas that just aren't super stark. We're gonna let that kind of come out here. There we go. I might grab my fan one again. Here we go. And we're just going to get a little bit of each of that, and let's just kind of fan this out with my fan brush. Really get that look that we're looking for, so it looks more like a tried and true sand versus that real cut off look there. I see I have some areas that have, and this is that end stuff, right? It's that end stuff that we get to work on and really make it look the way that we want this to really look here. So this is the fun part, to really kind of lay this in and say, yeah, now I like it. That's perfect. So kind of running these along here. I got a little bit too much here. There. So see, we really kind of shaded those in, and I think that looks really nice. I like it. All right, keeping this round brush, I'm gonna make 3 flowers. And this one is a pretty big round brush. Actually, I might use this one. This is a number 16 round. It's even bigger. So I'm gonna use this one here. And I'm gonna come in, I'm not gonna finish up with my flip-flops just quite yet because I'm using my white. I'm letting that all dry before I put my dots in. But before I move on, let's do this one here. Let's just crisp up this line here. Just don't like how that's looking there. Crisp that up and kind of still got a few areas. Okay, here we go. All right, so now we're gonna take this guy. We're getting him a little bit wet. Don't worry about your paint. And I'm gonna do 5 leaf petals. So I'm dipping my big round brush into my white paint. It's all on one end. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take and I'm gonna make this beautiful white flower. So all I'm doing is going flat and pull. So I'm letting that round tip really make this flower. So we're really just making it flat and pull. And about 5 petals in here is what it's going to be. And don't worry if it's not exactly looking how you want it to look. I'm probably going to end up with 6 on this guy because she's just not pulling out the way I thought that she would. That's okay. All right, so flat and pull, flat and pull, flat and pull. All right, maybe we're going to put another one down here. Okay, so now I'm just going to, and if I've got tons of paint on here, that's okay because we are going to make this super pretty. We're going to add some colors in here. I just want the definition of that point. Yay! It'll look very textured, and I'm okay with that. Making this a little fatter on the end. I'm just dropping this down to get that point and pulling up. So I have this white flower over here, okay? So within that flower, we're gonna have a little bit of yellow mixed in. Actually, before we get any other colors in here, probably a little bit too much. With the same white and my tip on here, I'm gonna add just a little bit of wave to this. I just want a little bit, God, I don't want too much here. I just want to kind of give the sense that, and I'm going to rub my finger like water is running through here. So all I'm doing is giving some white and I'm just using the tip of this to give the illusion of water in there. That's it. Just use the tip of it. So now I'm going to come back in with this yellow, and I'm going to come from the center now out and really make this yellow pop up on this flower, and it just kind of folds out to the petals is what it's doing. So I'm coming from the center and going out, from the center and pulling out, and from the center and pulling out. So I'm just letting that kind of pull on out. I'm kind of coming back and going the opposite direction now with it, because I just want that yellow to be almost like a faded yellow within that. So sometimes we just work a couple times over with things to get them looking exactly how we want. So now I'm just doing the same. I'm bringing that white, just touching it. I'm totally okay with this getting real thick. So we're just really letting that pull in so we get more of the white. There. So now we have this little flower, and now I'm going to take a little bit of magenta, just a tad. Whoops, that one's not open. Let me see if I can find one that's open. Actually, I'm going to use a red ochre. Red ochre, magenta, any one of those would work. And we're going to use that dagger brush for this, okay? And I'm putting the paint just on the pointed side. And what I'm doing now is coming from that center. I'm really creating the center of this flower, and I'm just pulling out for those petals. So again, I'm letting it kind of soften and pull out, and I'm just pulling out for those petals of this flower. And it almost looks like a real tropical looking flower. But see how that brush stroke works with this, and it just pulls it out. Again, nothing is real specific on here. We're just making a pretty picture, and I'm really letting that fan out and really creating that center of that flower. I think that just looks absolutely beautiful. Then I'm going to go back to my little round brush, and I'm actually going to mix a little bit of this Payne's gray, and I want to kind of give just a little bit of depth to these flowers. So we're just going to kind of come over here and get a little bit of that Payne's gray in here, and I'm just touching on the edges here, giving just a tad of depth by adding in a little bit of this Payne's gray mixed with the white. I'm using my smallest So I've just kind of given it a little bit more depth by adding in that Payne's gray. There we go. That's how she looks. All right. So now we are going to put our dots in. So let's use some bigger dots, and we're going to go into that very light olive green. I'm taking my little tool, and I'm just going to give some nice dots here in my sandals. So I'm going about, I don't know, an inch or so apart. I'm just putting some dots on. And first I'm kind of going around the edges here, kind of giving them somewhat of a symmetrical look. Doesn't have to be specific with it. Any of them that you don't think is big enough, just add more. We're just going to have some little dots for our sandals. Make them fun. I wouldn't get too crazy with them. As you can see, I've got them pretty spread apart here. I get quite a bit of paint on my daughter before I put it down. There. Doesn't that look cute? Nice little fun dots on there. And let's do the other one. You can have some dots a little bit bigger than other dots if you want to, or not. You're in charge of your painting to make it look how you want it to paint. But again, I hope you guys learn that just be free with your painting and don't worry about being so precise, and just have fun, because then you get a really fun painting. And it's okay if you have strokes that you don't necessarily like. Remember, it's all about layering and doing lots of layers. I've come back and done stuff on the sandals a couple times. Now I've got my fun little dots on there. Doesn't that look fun? So let's get that rinsed off of there. And we've done this in layers so that we make it look the way that we want. We've added a little bit of depth to this picture, but we haven't made it super precise. All right, the last part of this, I'm actually going to get another plate to use, and we're just going to do our last little part. I did a painting when I worked with some, oops, the red handled one is my big fan one, so I'm actually going to have it quite wet. So what I did is I really made some white paint with my fan that was pretty thin. So I'm going to get some water on here. I want you to see through this. I want this paint, so I'm really thinning this out with my fan brush. I don't want this super, super thick, okay? So I'm going to do probably 2 strokes across the canvas, and what we're doing is we're giving the illusion of this kind of having get that white. See, we're giving the illusion of the water coming in. Isn't that fun? So the fan brush, we've made it super light, and I'm going to stop. The more you go over this, the more you're going to cover it up. But we've just brought in that little seashore-ish looking at the very end. I've taken it down the side, and I'm actually going to wipe some of that off. And I'm going to come up here, and we're going to be bringing it off the top and off of here to really get that. And this is super easy. It's nothing that's exact. We've just made it. Isn't that fun? That's our end product, you guys. We're done. All you need to do now is sign it. I used a lot of water in there, just a little bit of paint. So I'm going to take my acrylic marker. Let's cap this back up here. And we're going to sign it. I always push down here. And let's give it a signature, shall we? I always like to put the year that I did it in. So, oops, I smudged it. That's all right. All right, there's our finished product. I signed it on the corner. We've got a cute little pair of flip-flops sitting at the edge of the water with a nice little flower here on the end. Hope you guys enjoyed my August paint and sip with you.